You're living in the calm beachside town of Maine, specifically Cape Elizabeth. The sun is setting on yet again another day. The day was over before it really began. A day ticked off your lifespan, but you have work in the morning, so you decide to call it an early night. Already deep in your sleep, your eyes are closed, but your ears are awake. The door. Did you lock it? Maybe. But that maybe isn't enough to wake you up to go and check. Creaking on the floorboards get increasingly louder. Given you have work in the morning, you need this sleep if you're going to make it through the day. But then there's a creak you simply can't ignore. One too loud to just be the house settling. You open your eyes and see him, a man in his early 20s, staring at you whilst you slept. But upon realizing you're awake, the man runs as fast as he can out of the house. You didn't lock your door. Hey everybody, so in today's installment we are going to be taking a look into a fairly unknown criminal case on the Cape Intruder. A case that did occur back in 2005 in the town of Cape Elizabeth, located in the United States, specifically in Maine. And I do know that there isn't a lot of coverage on the matter. This entire case is pretty unknown, so I've compiled pretty much everything that is known about the Cape Intruder. So if any of you have been to Cape Elizabeth in Maine, it is overall a very desirable place to live in. It's right by the water, it has great schools, and it's overall just a great living destination, especially if you are, older and looking for a place to retire. It's also a great place to raise a family, as reported by a lot of locals that live in that area, which is why it was such a shock to the residents living in the area when these intrusions did begin in 2005. For example, the first person that was visited by the Cape Intruder didn't even know if the sighting was real, because they were half asleep when it happened. They kind of just thought that it might have been just a dream. But then it became very evident that this was in fact not a dream at all, because reports of a man sneaking into people's houses began to spread like wildfire. And they all had one thing in common, one thing that led the Cape Intruder inside of people's homes: unlocked doors. Because although the Cape Intruder was breaking into people's homes, he wasn't physically breaking anything to get in. The only way he was getting inside was by the unlocked doors that people were leaving, unlocked. If a door was left unlocked, he would just walk in and stare at the victims. And what is very fascinating is that nothing was ever stolen or broken, or no one was ever even harmed or even touched. All that the Cape Intruder would do is just go into homes and stare for who knows how long, just standing over the beds of the victims. And perhaps the creepiest part about this entire thing is that there isn't any recorded amount of times that this happened, because it is impossible to tell how many houses the Cape Intruder actually did go into, given that the people were asleep, and if you weren't woken up by the Cape Intruder, you wouldn't even know that he was inside of your home. It was truly only the people that were woken up that were aware that, this Cape Intruder had come inside of their home. And because Cape Elizabeth was such a safe, quaint part of town, it was pretty common for people to leave their doors unlocked. And this has, never been the case for me. I've always locked my door, although I have heard stories of people, not locking their doors at night because there wasn't really a need to. But I thought that was kind of an old practice, not something that was going on in 2005. I kind of thought, in 2005 people were locking their doors, but apparently not in Cape. Regardless, there was now the word on the street that there was an individual that was breaking into people's homes, and the people of Cape Elizabeth began to lock their doors in their homes almost immediately. And what's interesting is that eventually enough people gathered together and came to the police, telling them that there was this person sneaking into their homes at night and then just vanishing. And off of all of these people that came together to inform the police about it, the police were able to narrow down a sketch of the man based off of the glimpses that people got of him. And it was revealed that the person was in their early 20s, was Caucasian and male. And when the Cape Intruder was invading these homes, people actually even began to try to catch him, although they had no luck. If you were visited by this man, some people would try to run after him and grab a hold of him, but unfortunately he got away every single time. Simply the idea of feeling unsafe in your home because a man is repeatedly breaking into people's homes to watch them sleep is a very uneasy feeling to have. But what is very weird is that eventually people began to think that they knew who this person was breaking into homes and watching people sleep, because he was breaking into people's homes so much that eventually people kind of got an idea of who this person could be based on the glimpses that they would get of his face, and also the police drawing. They could, draw conclusions as to who in town looked like this police sketch. And that's when police began to receive a number of calls from concerned citizens naming possible suspects. And it did eventually get to the point where 2 people named the exact same person. But unfortunately, that's as far as it got, because 2 people guessing the exact same person wasn't really enough for police to go off of, although it did add them to the suspects list. But there wasn't enough information to actually convict this individual. And after all this attention that the Cape Intruder was getting, the intruders eventually just stopped. Most likely for a variety of reasons, one of them being that so many people in the town, pretty much everybody was aware of the intruder, so they were locking their doors and were keeping one eye open while they slept. And another thing is that the police were getting pretty close to discovering who this person was, so all they really needed was one more glimpse of this Cape Intruder. And another thing that did happen in Cape Elizabeth regarding these intrusions is that a watch group was set up by the local police of the targeted area. Several meetings were also conducted with the local police regarding the same matter. And the police were also assuring people that few people have recognized the intruder, although they were following a few leads and they did have a few suspects in mind that they were going to interrogate. But after a spate of intrusions in August, December, and February, the incidents just stopped. There was no word of the Cape Intruder and he had seemingly just vanished. Again, this is most likely because the town was on such high alert and that they were so close to catching this individual, so it is most likely that the Cape Intruder just threw in the towel to avoid being convicted. The culprit was never caught and the people continued to live in terror for a brief period of time. It's now been 17 years since the Cape Intruder last broke into someone's home, a man that still roams free to this day and has never invaded another home, at least that we know of. But for all we know, maybe he just got better at it. But it does strike me as incredibly odd that this person was never brought to justice. Invading the homes and the privacies of people all over Cape Elizabeth shouldn't be a crime that is swept under the rug. But I did want to theorize that I feel like there is a possibility that this individual was just let off the hook by law enforcement. Given that there is a severe lack of coverage on these intrusions, there's not really much to go off of. But the thing is that police did have several leads that they were following, so it just kind of strikes me as odd that those leads just go blank. I mean, they had suspects and people that they believed to be the Cape Intruder. But what I think might have happened is that they perhaps discovered the individual committing these crimes and just let him off the hook. And it is a possibility that he may have just known somebody that was on the force and got off with a slap on the wrist. Again, given that none of these intrusions led to anybody being harmed, nothing being stolen, I feel like it could have been a possibility that they just, let him off. But that simply just doesn't matter. Regardless if anyone was hurt or anything stolen, this is still a crime that deserves a punishment. But at the end of the day, at the end of the year, at the end of the decade, this man was never caught. The Cape Intruder continues to walk freely through society without a worry in the world, regardless of the people he terrorized. But yeah, my name is Wama, and do not forget to subscribe. And this story is overall, it's not necessarily really disturbing or eerie, but it's just unsettling having somebody break into homes in the middle of the night just to stare at people. The entire thing is just really odd, especially considering that this person was never caught. But I did want to take this moment to thank my beautiful Patreons: Sicko Mode Penguin, The Crow, Eternal Daisy, Inspector Dom, Miguel Mejia, Notabot, Stannerfers, Kareem, Dylan, Masqueries, Robin, Anna, Cubery, Tensity, Estenia, Bleh, and 10 Tiny Bees. You guys are truly awesome. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. You guys are beautiful. But yeah, it's pretty much everything. I know this video is a little bit shorter. I hope that's okay. But yeah, stay safe. Please lock your doors. And yeah, bye. Love you.